Hi guys, welcome back to my page. So this video is going to be a pretty interesting video because I found something new today. Like I came across a new discovery and I've been in LA for 2 years, you guys, a little over 2 years. And it's interesting because when I first got here, I was looking like intentionally looking for the black community. I was like really trying to find the black community. I was like, where is the black community, you guys? I mean, I went all over LA looking for the black community, like all over LA. What's up, Fred? And I went to Crenshaw, like I went to, I guess, South Central. I went to Long Beach. Like, I literally was all over LA diligently trying to find the black community. And I could not find it. And what I mean by community, I mean a high concentration of African American people. I could not find it. But today, you guys, today I think I found it. What's up, Fred? I think I found the black community. It's not I think I found it. I found the black community, you guys. I found it. And it's interesting because how I found it, you guys. Who would have known? So today I had an interview because we're preparing to secure our second practicum placement within the PhD program that I'm in. And I had an interview today with an agency in downtown LA. And I'm just going to go ahead and call her my supervisor, you guys, because she's my supervisor, might as well say. Like, the thing is, like, we have to go through this match process. So right now we're going through the interview phase, and then after that we'll get matched to a site, you know, based on our interviews. And so there's this thing called Notification Day in LA where all of the PhD students get notified of their placements. And so that doesn't happen until like April. I think last year it was April 10th. So it's going to be around about that time, and we'll get notified of our placements. So I interviewed at my second site today. I had a second interview today downtown, and my supervisor was warning me. She was saying, she's like, be careful, you know, of the neighborhood, and when you come, make sure you give me a call because, you know, when you get here, it's kind of a rough neighborhood. She was kind of warning me of the neighborhood, right? And I'm like, okay, But she's thinking that I'm driving down there. So she's like, you know, when you pull up, you know, you can park in the garage and just let me know and I can let you in. But she was like, I'm going to be in a meeting until 12:15. So I'm like, okay, cool. But she didn't know that, you know, I don't have a car. So, of course, I live in Hollywood, and I literally live like less than a half a mile I have two train stations. I live like basically in between two train stations in Hollywood. And so I can take the train at Hollywood and Vine, or I can take it at Hollywood and Highland. And it's literally like 15 minutes, you know, on the train to get to downtown. I got off at Pershing Square. That's where it is. The place I went to was Skid Row, you guys. Skid Row in Los Angeles. I've seen quite a bit of documentaries on Skid Row, and I've been by it, but I never been to Skid Row. Like, I never actually put myself in the middle of Skid Row like I did today. And like I said, my supervisor, the doctor who I interviewed with today, she, you know, was trying to give me a heads up of the neighborhood, you know, like she, in the email, is like, you know how somebody trying to warn you or something, but they don't really want to say it, but it's like they kind of gave it away anyway, you know, by saying what they said. So in so many words, she pretty much was saying that the neighborhood was unsafe and to be careful and to stay in my car. Hypothetically speaking, because she thought I had a car, which I don't have a car. And it's funny. So I get there, you guys. I get off at Pershing Square. And I think it's my first time getting off at this stop. Like, I've gotten off at 7th Street and Metro Station, which is like where Target is. I actually did a video down there. I did a live video in that neighborhood. A couple videos, I think. And that's also the stop for the main public library. I also did a video at that location as well. But so I gotten off like at 7th Street Metro, Civic Center. Like that's kind of where I usually get off, when I do go downtown, of course. But I don't think I ever gotten off at Pershing Square station. And so today I got off at Pershing Square because that's pretty much the stop you get off to go to Skid Row, you guys. And it's like, dog, I'm blown away. First of all, like the design of the station, because like if you live in LA or you visit LA, you'll see like in the metro stations, every station has its own personality, its own theme to it, right? So I live in Hollywood, and out here in Hollywood, the theme of the train station at Hollywood and Vine is like filmmaking. They have like movie reels like all on the ceiling, things like that, kind of to commemorate, I guess, the theme of Hollywood, because it's Hollywood. But downtown at Pershing Square is a different kind of theme. It was like more colorful and vibrant, and had these neon lights, and it was pretty. I liked it, right? And so I'm getting out at the train station, and like I'm getting ready to go up the escalator, and I was reaching in my purse to get my lip gloss, and I'm looking for it, and it took me some time to find it because I got a whole bunch of junk in my purse or whatever. And it's funny because this guy passed me, and I hear a voice, and he's like, "What you looking for, babe?" He's like, "You need a couple dollars?" Somebody, "You need a couple dollars? I can help you with a couple dollars." And I'm like, "What?" I'm looking at this, and I look up. The guy passed me. He looked like he homeless. This black guy, right? So I'm like, okay. But then again, that kind of alerted me that, okay, yes, I must be in the right neighborhood. I got off at the right. Because it's my first time coming to this place. Mind you, I'm on my way to an interview, for my practicum. And I'm like, I found it to be quite funny to me. So I laughed, and I was like, no, thanks. I was like, I'm good. Thank you, or whatever. And so I found my lip gloss. I put it on. By the way, if you guys are watching, you live in LA, if you think about Skid Row, feel free to comment below and share your thoughts on it. But so I get off, and boom, I'm smack dab in the middle of this neighborhood, and it's pretty vibrant. You can tell, like, yeah, it's popping, right? And it's downtown, and you hear police sirens, and there's black people, and I'm looking around, and I'm like, wow. And I was in the middle of doing my live video. You guys, after this one, you can go back and watch the video that I did. But I'm in the middle of a live video, so I didn't have the Google Maps on my phone, because I was going to do GPS. But I didn't do that because I didn't want to interrupt my video. So I'm like, let me ask somebody, where is Skid Row, right? The name of the street is called San Julian. But, a.k.a. Skid Row. They call it Skid Row. And so I'm like, let me ask somebody which direction is Skid Row, right? So I don't want to be too turned around. And so this guy came over, this black guy. He walking all like bouncing all kind of fast and stuff. And he walking kind of like with a little pimp to his walk. And I stopped him. I say, can you tell me where Skid Row is? He was like, yeah, it's that way. He was like, I was like, which way? He was like, just go down, make a right here on 5th Street and just keep going, and you'll see San Julian, and you'll run right into it. And I was like, okay, thank you. It's funny because like after that, like he started talking about some random stuff. I don't know what the hell he was saying, but I'm like, yeah, he seemed like he could have been a homeless person. So I'm asking directions from a homeless person, but I'm like, hey, give the man a benefit of the doubt, right? You never know. I mean, and then again, that could work to my benefit, because if he's homeless, think about it now. If he's homeless and he's familiar with the area, then chances are he just might know where Skid Row is, right? Doesn't mean that he can't communicate, right? Or doesn't remember directions or can't give directions. So I don't know. I try to go down there with a positive attitude and positive frame of mind, and not judge anyone. That was just my perspective when I went down there. And I wish, the video that I made, I mean, it's an okay video, but the sound quality isn't that good. And I made a part 2, which you guys can hear me better in that video. But I talked about basically, excuse me guys. I talked about my experience when I was down there, while I was there. And I felt like, there's of course a stereotype and people have their own perception of how Skid Row is and what they think about Skid Row. There's been a lot of documentaries about it. People have gone down there to do like videos about it and stuff, and interview people who live down there in Skid Row. But to me, I say it's nothing like going down there, you guys. I swear. It's nothing like just going to Skid Row and seeing it for yourself. It's almost like the first time I went to Atlanta, Georgia, and I saw a whole gang of homeless black people downtown in Atlanta sleeping on the Capitol building. Like, it was one of the Capitol buildings or one of the, like, the government built a federal building. You can tell it was like a really important building. And it had a whole bunch of stairs, and it was layers of black people laid out, lined up on those steps. It had to have been over 100 people. And to me, when I just look at that image, you guys, it creeped me out. It sent like a weird feeling through my body looking at that image. So when I went to Skid Row today, for my interview, like, this feeling, it reminded me of that. Like, I got this somber feeling, and I got, like, it sent a message through my body, and it alerted me, like, where is this? Like, what the hell is this? To see that many black people in that condition. But I think it was like a bittersweet moment because, I mean, first of all, it was like a new experience. I've been past Skid Row, like driving, but I haven't been like on foot and walking through the neighborhood, So like, it's one thing when you just kind of like on a highway and you riding by and you see tents, right? That's one thing. But when you actually go through the neighborhood and you go through the streets and you out right there in the midst of all these people, that's a different experience. And that's what I did today. And I'm just like, to me, it was so alarming because I had never, like, me being in LA for 2 years. I moved to LA from New York in 2016. And when I say I intentionally was looking for the black community when I got here, like, I purposely was trying to find black people, I mean, I feel like I come across black people in Hollywood, but it's like here and there. And I feel like they kind of watered down black people. It's not like, quote unquote, real black people. So, I was looking for a high concentration of black people. And for me to go downtown today and to go to Skid Row and to see that high amount of black people down there, I'm like, it was mind blowing. When I say it blew my mind, because I was like, oh my, this is like too many black people, number one. And they are homeless, like in this condition, living in LA, living in Los Angeles, California. I'm like, this to me is so freak. Like, it's a creepy experience. I was freaked out, you guys, by it. And I kept walking. And at the same time, like I say, it's bittersweet. So it was beautiful walking through the neighborhood and just seeing people that look like me, because when I'm walking through, it's a different experience. To me, it's a different feeling when you're walking through a neighborhood and you see people that look like you versus if you're walking through a neighborhood and nobody looks like you, So it's definitely a different experience. And so to see that many black people in that neighborhood, and when I say it was a lot of black people, I was blown away. And not only that, but like I said, I was kind of heartbroken because they were homeless. Like, this is Skid Row. I'm like, this what they mean by Skid Row? They don't talk about it. I feel like when they do talk about it in documentaries, they don't do justice to the numbers, to the amount of black people who are living on the streets of Los Angeles homeless, And so I go down there and I'm walking through the neighborhood, and like I said, I wanted to go with a fresh, clean slate type of attitude. So I didn't want to carry with me negative attitude, thoughts about these people down there, or about Skid Row. I just wanted to go with a fresh, clean slate, positive attitude. And I realized having that positive attitude nurtured in me a positive spirit within my body, like they say, positivity attracts positivity. So, I felt like I was welcomed with open arms going down to Skid Row. Like the people, it's literally is a community. That's what I'm coming to learn. It's a community of people. And, they didn't look at me as a threat to them. They welcomed me with open arms. They greeted me. People were speaking to me, coming up to me. You guys can go back and watch the video that I made. But this lady complimented me on my hair, and just was very welcoming. The exchange was really positive and nice. And to me, that's just amazing. And this is all before my interview. And so I finally met up with my supervisor. And it was amazing. Like when we first met, we automatically clicked. And I can't even recall like what it was, how it initiated, right? When we first sat down, I think this is what it was. I think because I broke the ice. I think that's what it was, because I was in the middle of doing my live video when I was down there. She was trying to call me, and while she was calling me, I'm doing a live video. But I'm thinking that she is some telemarketer person or just some person calling my phone bothering me, right? So I didn't answer it. She was calling me. I didn't answer the phone. I'm sending her to voicemail, right? But it's her, and she's trying to call me. It's like I'm out. She's out in the garage, trying to meet up with me. And literally, like I'm standing outside, and she was, I guess, I don't know how long she had been standing there, but she was standing there, and she was like, I'm right here. Turn around. It's like, is that you? And I was like, oh, and I finally picked up the phone, like I said, and that's when she was telling me this. And I was like, oh my gosh, I did not mean to hang up the phone on you, but she had been calling me the whole time, and I thought it was somebody else. So I think that was funny. We kind of both laughed it off. And then we sat down and, we were talking, and it's funny because it's like I was interviewing her at first, and then she was like, wait a minute, I got some questions I need to be asking you. It's funny, but I think naturally, like, I don't know, naturally, I think I could be a dominant woman. And I definitely can attest to this, that when I'm in a room with another woman or women, period, I'm typically the most dominant woman in the room. But that's just my personality, I guess. And it's funny because we clicked, and I was just telling her about my research, because I'm really excited about my research and the fact that I actually began my data collection for my study that I'm working on. So you guys, this is big. Like y'all don't understand, I don't think how big what I'm doing, how big it is. So I'm just gonna have to let it speak for itself and just not talk about it so much, but just know what I'm working on towards is a big project, and you guys will see. But I was telling her about it, and she was just like so excited to hear my perspective on this topic. Like, it's a hot button topic. We all know racism, race, black identity, this whole thing about black extremism, which I don't know who the hell, the FBI is the one who created that term, but, it's not really, I think it's an invalid term. And it's just unfortunate. This thing just got so many layers to it. And so I think thinking about that particular population, working with homeless black people, not only that, but homeless black people in LA, it's a humongous, what I'm coming to learn is that it's a humongous homeless black population in LA, y'all. This is bad. You get what I'm saying? Especially when I'm coming here and I'm like, we're the black community, and you thinking that, okay, I don't know, maybe I'm missing something. Now, there is another community, black community that they call Baldwin Hills in Crenshaw, which is supposed to be an affluent African-American neighborhood. And I've been there, but I don't know. I guess they were just hiding, I guess, in their homes, because the neighborhood is an elevated, that's what it's called, the Hills. It's an elevated neighborhood. And I don't know, I saw some black faces, but I saw a hell of a lot of black faces today when I went downtown. It was a lot of black people down there. And, just to see them poor and living in that condition, to me, like, it really hurt. It warmed my heart, but it hurt my heart too. And by the way, I got the position. So it's funny because we're not supposed to get notified until like next month, but she pretty much told me like, yeah, I'll be calling you on notification day. And you only get a call from places that are giving you an offer. So it's funny because she clicked, she liked me. I told her all about my research. And even though she's not black, she was able to listen to me and kind of understand my perspective and what I'm researching. You guys just go to my website, bihappy.org. It's spelled BIHAPI. Stands for Black Identity and Health in African People International. It's an organization that I created that basically expounds upon my current research on Black identity and African American parents and implicit racial bias in children. You guys can go to the website to learn more about that. But I'm kind of excited, and at the same time, like, I'm in a kind of weird place in my life right now because, you know, it's like some things are kind of up in the air about if I'm going to be here in LA or if I'm about to move back to New York. So we'll see how this thing is going to play out. I mean, I'm really kind of feeling really excited about working with this population. Y'all just don't know because, like I said, I identify with it. I mean, I'm African American and I've been homeless before, unfortunately. So I can identify with it. And I had that conversation with her, because she asked me, you know, what led me to become interested in that particular organization, that agency, and apply there. And I'm like, well, I mean, it's an interested population. Just think about it. Homeless people, you know, who's not fascinated by homeless people? I've always been fascinated by homeless people and wanted to know what makes a person go that low, you know, to lay on the ground, to fall asleep on the ground outside, to dig in a trash can, you know, like what makes a person do that? You know, I told her about my story of being homeless and, you know, how it was rough for me. But I never contemplated ever thinking about laying outside on the fucking ground, you know? Like I feel like there's so many different options and alternatives to the story, you know, as opposed to having to choose that route. And I was telling her that, you know, of course, obviously mental illness plays a role. So, you know, it's no question that they are impacted by a mental illness, you know, and how that obviously impacts, you know, their course of action, and which differentiates them from me, a person like myself who said, hell no, you know, never. I'm not going to, what I say never, but I can say that like eating out of a trash can, that's to me a whole nother level right there. And I feel like that's what I want to get to understand. Like, what can make a person do that? And I even said to her, I was like, I want to understand that, you know, like, what is it? You know, it's like, at some point, do they just be like, fuck it? You know, and I use that expression, fuck it, and she laughed or whatever. It's funny. I got her to laugh like several times during an interview. It's always good when you can make people laugh. But that's what I'm thinking. Like, what is it? Do they get to a point where they just be like, fuck it? You know, like, you know, we know times are hard and things are rough. I'm not ignorant to the fact of, you know, social oppression and racism, you know, discrimination. You know, this is happening on a systemic level. So it's not just something that's happening individually. You know, I get it. But I want to know what is going on in a person's mind psychologically. Like, what in the hell? You know, can make a person dig in a trash can to eat food. Or just to say they give up. And she was telling me more about the organization and how they consist of actually 25 buildings. I saw several of the buildings actually that's downtown. And some of them are newer buildings, you know, less than 10 years old. And these are nice buildings. And she was telling me how, you know, the people who actually go there and looking for housing, you know, because they're homeless, like they can qualify simply if they just are low income, because it's all based on income. So they look at what you're bringing in, and the residents pay 30% of their income. I'm like, wow, only 30%. So she was like, let's say if a person only makes $100, then their income will be, their rent payment will be $30 essentially, because it's 30% of their income that they have to pay towards rent. So I'm like, wow. So if a person, let's say their income is $1,000, then they'll pay $300, because that's 30% of their income. They'll pay $300 per month. And she was like, if their income is $0, then they'll pay $0 towards rent. And she was like, there's no cap as to how long they can stay there. She's like, it's a permanent housing, so they can live there indefinitely, like forever. And I'm like, wow, I'm like, they got it made. And she say they have their own apartment. She says single apartment housing, so they don't have to share their apartment with anybody. And I'm like, how good is that? They have a medical doctor there. They have a psychiatrist. Like, these people literally have it made. I'm like, okay, I think that's could be part of the problem, if you ask me, because that is just kind of reinforcing, this whole idea of learned helplessness. When people are kind of given all of these resources, right? Like, they develop an expectation that that's how things should be, and they develop a learned helplessness. They're like, okay, did they learn that if they play broke, or, they are in a position of need and they position themselves in that position, then that's what they can get. It's like, if you become to learn that, okay, if I hold my hand out, somebody is going to put something into my hand. So when someone puts something into your hand, that behavior in itself reinforces you putting your hand out. It makes you continue to put your hand out more. You get what I'm saying? When people don't put something in your hand, then eventually that's going to communicate to you. You're going to learn that, okay, you holding your hand out is not going to get you what you thought you were going to get. But these, people, it's unfortunate. On one hand, people say, okay, well, they need the help, right? You don't have a place to stay. If an organization is offering you a place to stay and saying, hey, you can come and stay here as long as you're clean, as long as you get a psychological exam, you follow the rules, of the place, and you can stay here. They just have to, I think they do have to comply and get treatment. They have to be medicated. So if they get assessed and it's determined that they have schizophrenia because they're hearing voices and they're talking to themselves and, they're delusional, then they have to be medicated. They have to be basically stabilized. And so as long as they're compliant with their medication and compliant with the rules there of the facility, then they can live there. And in a way, I think that's a good thing, but I feel like that can be part of the problem too, And she said that there are those people that live there, right, inside the facilities, and then you have the people who live outside. The whole thing is Skid Row, if you ask me, because you have a community of people who just are impoverished and they're depending upon the government for help, for resources, and they aren't really self-sufficient, like they're not taking care of themselves. They're not integrated with society. It's almost like they are separated and isolated and positioned in this neighborhood where they have learned to adapt, like to what they have. And the people that live outside, she was like, some of them, they were living inside, but they got kicked out because they are on drugs, they're not complying with the rules, and they living on the streets. And she said some just kind of do that on purpose. They self-sabotage just to get kicked out because they kind of prefer to live out there on the streets. I'm like, that is some sick shit. But at the same time, when you think about it, like I said, even when I was doing the video, my live video when I was there, I was like, it kind of reminded me of Africa, to be honest, in some countries in Africa or even Haiti, that it's like that. You have communities of Black people living outside in huts, and when from the outside looking in, you look at it and you're like, this is a terrible condition. These people should not be living like this, right? You see trash on the ground, you just see impoverished conditions, like you look at them and they look dirty and you think that they're uneducated and they just don't fit in with society. But this group of people, like this population, is interesting to me. Number one, they black, you know, so of course, yeah, I look at them as that's my people. I identify with them in that respect. But I feel like it's a reason why people, I think, choose that homeless route. You know, like it's a reason. It's something that is driving that amount of people to be homeless. I think part of it, yes, can be external forces that's working from the outside in. And I think another part is something that's going on psychologically. And I'm interested in both aspects of the equation, you know, and definitely having the opportunity to be able to work with these people one-on-one individually and do therapy work. Like I can be able to get a deeper understanding, I think, of this problem to see like what's going on. But one of the areas that they do treat is hoarding disorders. Like they treat, you know, the clients come, of course, with all kinds of mental illness, you know, depression, schizophrenia, delusional disorders, personality disorders, anxiety, you know, and hoarding is another problem that they come with. I mean, I find it to be interesting, though, just the conceptualization of hoarding, first of all, because you have, you know, the homeless people, when they have all that stuff that they collect, they don't look at it as a problem, right? But from the outside looking in, especially through a psychological lens, it's looked at as a problem. You know, when you collect in so-called meaningless shit, a whole bunch of junk is of no value, you're just collecting all this stuff, that's considered a mental illness. And so, you know, I was kind of struggling a little bit when I was talking to her about that, because she was asking me what I know about hoarding. And I'm like, I know a little bit about hoarding because I actually got somebody in my family that hoards. I ain't gonna put their name out there like that. But I'm like, yeah, I know somebody that, you know, is a hoarder and just got to be collecting a whole bunch of shit, room junky as hell, you know, and it can be unfortunate. But at the same time, when you think about that population, because even when she made the distinction, she was saying, now you have people who are hoarders. Let's say you have people who represent like the higher socioeconomic status group, like middle class white woman who is a hoarder, let's say, who lives in Santa Monica. And then you can take a person like somebody on the street who is a hoarder, and you're going to see differences. And I'm like, yeah, but at the same time, when you're talking about the person who is on the street, I mean, is it really hoarding? Because you look at it in the context of them being homeless, them not having shit. When a person collects all that shit, that means something to them. You know, when you ain't got nothing, you know, the smallest thing, you can see value in the smallest thing. She gave the example of a soda can, how they'll have a soda can. They were like, no, they don't want to get rid of it. You know, so part of our role as clinicians, as therapists, and working with them is to kind of basically present a cost benefit type of equation analysis for them so that they can basically choose, you know. She's like, we want to make them more autonomous, you know, so that they have the power and ability to make their own decisions. We don't make decisions for them, you know. We just kind of set the equation up and then allow them to make the decision for them. But I'm just like, think about the situation, though. Like, they ain't got shit. And it don't matter if we see it as it doesn't have value. If it means something to them, then it means something to them. You know, and I feel it's kind of like hearing her say, like, they try to work with the clients to get rid of some of their shit and throw it away. Like, that kind of hurt my heart because I'm like, oh, you know, like, and especially when you think about the context of our society, we live in American society. Like, come on, it's our American culture to get a whole bunch of shit, right? To acquire things, you know, like when you acquire possessions, that means that, you know, like, that basically is supposed to add value to your life. The more you have, the more valuable you are, essentially, right? Like, the more money you have, right? That's how it's looked at in American society. So within their culture, within the homeless culture, you can kind of equate those physical possessions as to money. It's like, it's a valuable asset. And they looking like, you know, they got their big basket, whole bunch of shit on their basket. They looking like, man, we balling out here. You know what I'm saying? They balling. It means something to them. It gives them something to do. It gives them a reason to, I think, live when you think about it, because now you have a possession. If you ain't got shit, what reason do you have to live? You know, but if you have something to take care of, essentially, you know, you have something to look after, then you have a reason to live. That's just my whole frame of reference. And I'm thinking like maybe we can work with them to repurpose what they have, you know, so that it doesn't lose its value, you know, but it isn't they don't have to acquire all this stuff and be lugging it around. If that makes sense. So I'm like, I'm a kind of person I think outside the box, and my mind can think in so many different millions of directions. So I'm like, you know, if it was up to me, we can take all that. You can be convinced the homeless people to take all that shit, and we can sell it. They can sell it or whatever, and they can keep the money. Or you know, like it's ways that stuff they have can actually be turned into something of value. You know, like it can be put into art museums. You know, we can have art exhibits and all kinds of stuff that people, regular people, will appreciate it. You know, they'll look at that and be like, wow, that's art. You get what I'm saying? Wow, that's amazing. That has value. That's worth $1 million. You know, and I mean, you'll be amazed. Like, I feel like before we go and judge people, we have to get to know a person. You know, like everybody, I look at it like this. Everybody got a story, and I'm interested in learning every single person's story that is homeless that's out on Skid Row. Like everybody, if they can tell it, you know, they have a way of expressing and articulating it and saying it, you know, because it's a reason, it's something that led them to be in a position that they are, and it's something that's keeping them there, you know. And at the end of the day, I feel like people do have a choice, and people do choose to be homeless. You know, we may say, "Oh no, they didn't choose it. They can't. You know, something wrong with their mind." And I was like, "What about if it's nothing wrong? What if you look at it like it's nothing wrong with their mind? Like it's something that they choose to do. For some, anyway. Not to say everybody fits under this criteria, but for some, what if it is a choice? And what if they say, you know, as opposed to integrating with society, to basically getting on the bandwagon and doing what society expects of us to do, which is to go and get a 9 to 5 job and to work and to pay taxes. They're like, to hell with that. We're going to create our own community and we're going to live how we want to live, you know, which is essentially from the earth and as a community upon ourselves, you know. So they create their own community. And I'm interested in looking at it from that perspective and going in and just learning as much as I can learn. If I decide to stay here in LA, then yeah, I'll be working at that. I'll be working on Skid Row, and that to me is gonna be exciting. Like I like that kind of work. I like exciting work. You know, like I'm a kind of person I like to, you know, kind of test the limits and kind of like be on the edge and to take risks. You know, and where people feel like, oh, it's dangerous or we shouldn't go there, I'm like, I want to go there. So I'm ready. I'm excited. You know, I want to learn more. I'm actually was thinking about going back down there. After the interview, my supervisor, like, she gave me a ride to, I didn't even ask for a ride. She offered and gave me a ride to the train station. And she's like, who was talking? She was telling me about her family, da da da. You know, and she graduated from, she actually graduated from a school that I'm attending. And she was like, she has her own private practice. Like she's successful. She's, you know, she's a doctor. She's doing what she designed to do. She wanted to do anyway. She was destined to. I say designed to do. She's doing what she was destined to do. Yeah, if y'all see me kind of diverting my attention over here, it's because Beyonce is on my TV right now. I'm watching Beyonce perform. That's one of my favorite artists. But yeah, so it was a lovely day, you guys. Like I say, I wanted to kind of hang out. I planned before I went to my interview. I intended to hang out in the neighborhood afterwards, but you know, she offered. She's like, "I'll take you to the train station." I ended up just getting on the train and going back to Hollywood. But you know, I think I'm gonna go back down to Skid Row because number one, not just for the people, but they have like shops down there. I kind of want to check out some of the stuff that they have for sale down there. I like those little thrift shops that they have, and flea markets. That's what it's called. They have like flea markets down there and stuff. So I'm like, okay, this is where the black community is. Like, y'all, they should have just, I don't know, they should advertise that as, like, put the word out to people that that's where black people is at in LA. They are in Skid Row. They are at Skid Row. Is a whole bunch of black people down there. And I ain't just talking about like old homeless black people. I'm talking about like people from different ages. Black people, probably in their 20s, 30s, 40s, 50s. Like, it's a wide range of ages of black people down there. And I'm like, wow, this is where the black community is. And I was, like I said, I was excited to see like that. I mean, I'm like, okay, this is where we at, So I felt good. Overall, I felt good about going down there and being I felt like I was discovering a pot of gold. That's what I felt like something new. I felt like, wow, I'm discovering something new, and I'm about to embark on an amazing journey, of discovery and just learning and being able to make a difference. And the fact that, like, because that population, like I said, it's a very different special population. A lot of people, like a lot of my colleagues, a lot of people don't want to work with the homeless people. Let's just keep it real. A lot of people don't want to work with prisoners or the homeless people, or gays, Like, that's the last group of people say they want to work with. A lot of times people want to work, with certain populations that they feel is easy, or, I don't know. They feel like they can understand, or they feel is not as challenging, or within their capability of handling. And I'm like, I like to work with the most challenging populations. I mean, I started out working with challenging population when I was young. I was like, 22 years old. I was 22 years old when I first, well, actually, I was 20, because I actually worked at a psych hospital when I was working towards my bachelor's at Florida State. So, yeah, I started really young. I started young in this field, but, I mean, I was working with foster care kids. I was working with suicidal patients, like people, like the hospital I worked at, it was a stabilization unit, and you had people that, they needed to be stabilized. Like, they literally, attempted suicide, and it didn't go through, and some of them was sad, There was a man who jumped off a bridge, and he was in a lot of pain, like a lot of pain. They doped him up, and I was talking to him during his psycho eval, and, it was sad. Like, it's sad. You can feel it, because human spirit, it connects, we're human beings. It don't matter the race. This man was a white man, and me being a black woman, it's like I kind of felt his pain in a way, and it's unfortunate. Another kid, I was working at a psych hospital, and this is when I was young. I was like 20 years old, 21. But he was a college student, and he had attempted suicide, where he tied a thick ass rope around his neck, real tight, and, tried to hang himself. He did hang himself, but it didn't work. It just didn't work. His neck was filled with marks, bruises, from the rope. And he was scarred up real bad on his neck, like all around his neck. He was messed up. But, it didn't work. He was a football player. And it's like, you think, well, dang, that young, what could make a person want to kill themselves? But pressure. You're under a lot of pressure to perform, Life is tough. But, so I feel like I work with a variety of different populations, tough, challenging populations. I work with a group of sexually reactive kids, who are wards of the state of Florida. I'm sitting on the floor, you guys, these kids, some kids, they had unfortunate stories, one kid was, found in a dumpster, His mom had threw him in a dumpster, but he survived it. You know, it was just bad. I can go on and on. I can write books on this stuff. You know, the stuff that I've been exposed to and have seen over the years in the field that I'm in. And that's when I was like, I was really in it. You get what I'm saying? I'm in it now, but I'm in it from in a different perspective. I was more like working directly with these clients, kind of like in the milieu. So really heavily working with these clients day in, day out, you know, all day. Whereas like the difference as a psychologist, you know, it's more like you kind of pop in and spend, you know, an hour, you know, a day working with them, as opposed to working with them like for 8 hours a day, when you kind of more like one-to-one, you know, or when I was like working as a residential counselor. So, I mean, yeah, I've had quite a bit of experience in working with different populations and working with offenders, prisoners, and drug addicts, you know, people who abuse drugs and people who are chemically dependent upon drugs. Is just a whole nother level than just being addicted to drugs. You know, it's one thing to be addicted, it's another thing to be chemically dependent, and to abuse drugs. But I'm excited about, you know, the next steps in my career. And I also wanted to talk, before I end this video, I want to kind of talk briefly about my experience as with my first session, my therapy session with my psychologist yesterday. I told you guys I found a psychologist in Beverly Hills, and I figured Beverly Hills, because it's close, like I live in Hollywood and Beverly Hills is like right there next door. So it's like on the other side of West Hollywood, and so it's not that far from where I live. And I just felt like I want to kind of experience something different. I know a lot of Beverly Hills, you know, psychologists are white, so I kind of want to, you know, I feel like it would be interesting to talk to a person that is from a different culture background than myself, you know, and going through this process, because it's just a requirement that we have to do. Like I had made a post about it on Facebook, how like I'm about to embark on this new journey. It's for 16 weeks where we have to do actually 16 sessions of 1 hour psychotherapy sessions under a psychologist. Like it's with a psychologist. It can't be a therapist, it can't be a MFT, marriage family therapist, or licensed professional counselor. It has to be under a psychologist. We have to talk to a psychologist, you guys, because it's like they're thinking, it's like, okay, if we're training to become a psychologist and we want to be a licensed psychologist, then we need to go to therapy ourselves. So this is going to be quite interesting, and we clicked right away. I think it's a good match. I like the fact that she is not afraid to challenge me. I like that. You get what I'm saying? Because I feel like sometimes like some white people be trying to walk on eggshells around black people. I don't like when they be kind of acting all funny and scary like that. Like I felt like she treated me just like the next person, you know, like she wasn't afraid to challenge me. And this is the first session, but you know, for the most part, I felt like she understood. You know, she listened. She understood where I was coming from. She sided with me a lot, but I understand the technique behind that, you know, which is just to get me to open up more, and I did. Like, she had her way of really getting me to open up and kind of share bits and pieces of my life, and I felt safe talking to her, and just like, yeah, I'm looking forward to it. And y'all, she booked me for another session this same week. Like, I went to go see her yesterday, Monday, March 12th. Was that March 12th? Make sure I get my days right. Yeah, and so she booked me for another session this same week. So 2 days later, I'm going to see her tomorrow. Which I'm like, dang, that's kind of unusual, because usually, you know, you meet like once a week. Sometimes they'll increase the sessions if they feel like, okay, this is some kind of intense client that needs it. But I'm like, come on now, you know, I'm good. But anyway, my insurance that I have anyway, like they only authorize for clients who have mild to moderate anyway. So I'm like, I know my shit ain't so big. I'm good, you know. But the way she was looking at me when I was like sharing information, she was like, interesting. And y'all, I have to tell y'all this, y'all. Of course, I told her that I'm into the BDSM lifestyle, y'all, because that's important. I feel like, yes, that's really important, especially when we're talking about like relationships, because, you know, what is a therapy session without talking about relationships, you know? So, yeah, of course, I told her about my last relationship, and I told her, like, you know, I'm into the BDSM lifestyle, and y'all, I like that she challenged me, though. I like that she was like, oh, really? Like, oh, because a lot of people, I feel like, yeah, they are curious about learning about BDSM, but she was like, wait a minute now, what's this called again? Because she's like, she's a little bit older woman, which I feel is good, because she's from a way different generation, you know. Many different generations than I am. So I like that, you know, because I feel like she's a voice of reason, which I need. You know, people need that sometimes. And she was like, okay, so what's this BDSM thing again? And I'm trying to explain it to her, which is so hard to put into words to people who really don't get it. You know, people who are vanilla, people who are just not familiar with that alternative lifestyle. They're like, what? You into what? You like what? You know, and I'm telling her, but she was like, you know, well, you've been a submissive. I'm sure that you're into the masochism part too, right? And I'm like, yeah. Like, what is BDSM without masochism? And she was trying to figure out, like, what is it that drives my interest and what makes me into the lifestyle. You know, I'm trying to explain to her, and she got her eye raised, like, But it's not, I felt like it wasn't from a bad place. Like, it wasn't her being judgmental. It was more about her trying to look after me, right? Trying to make sure that I was good, like I'm good, you know, because, I mean, you have to be careful with this kind of lifestyle, you know, and yeah, we were just having a really good conversation. I just have to say that, but this light is getting me hot. I'm excited. I'm in a good place. I feel like things are falling into place for me. And I'll catch you guys later. Feel free to comment below and share what you guys think. I don't know if you guys live in LA. If you ever been to LA. But y'all, I'm surprised by this. I am really like taken away the fact that, and I think, you know what, my supervisor, she was trying to say as if, yes, it's a good number of black people that live, you know, in Skid Row. But it sounded like she was trying to say that it's more black people that live outside of Skid Row. And I'm like, no, don't try to make light of the situation. Because I've been around LA, and this is the most black people I've seen together in a group. You get what I'm saying? Like, this is the most black people, aside from when I went to the BT Awards show or whatever. But that's different. You know, that's an event. I'm talking about people who live in a neighborhood, right? Like a concentration of people who live in a neighborhood. That neighborhood has the highest concentration of black people I've seen so far in LA. And the fact that they're homeless, they are poor. These people are living below the poverty line. These people don't have no income. No income, y'all. And I'm like, God damn. And they say no wonder a lot of black people, they kind of moved out of LA and they live on the outskirts, like in Long Beach. They don't even live in the city of LA. Because number one, the shit is like, the cost of living is overpriced here, you know. Even like they say, so-called in the hood, you know, you ain't gonna find no apartment less than $1,000 in the hood in LA. Like, so cost of living is pretty. I mean, I pay like $1,800 where I live out here in Hollywood. So, you know, of course, there's no excuse, you know, for why so many homeless people down there. But it's just unfortunate, y'all. It's sad. I'm like, we gotta do something about this, you know. And if it takes me and my courage to go down there and do something about it, then hey, all right, let's strap up. I'm ready. Let's go down there. Let's do it. You know what I'm saying? I'm ready. I was ready today. I'm like, hey, I'm ready to start the day. What's up? But no, it's gonna be exciting. I'm really looking forward to it, you know. And you know, I've interviewed at another agency, and I have a couple more interviews, but this one looking pretty good. This one looking pretty good. So this may be my second placement. That's what I was trying to explain to you in another interview. I mean, in another video, how as PhD students, you know, or students, clinical psych students who are trying to become clinical psychologists, just like doctors have their rotations where they do get training and experience at different clinical sites, to explore different aspects of medicine. Psychologists, we also have to rotate, like, and go to different placement sites. And so my first placement was with adults with intellectual disabilities and severe mental illness. And so now I am in the process of applying to for my second practicum, my second placement, clinical placement here in LA, and looks like it's going to be with the homeless population. Not just homeless, but African American, because that's actually my top choice. Like, I prefer to work with African Americans, and I make it pretty clear, you know, to my professors, to the people in my program, like, I want to work with African American people, you know, clients. You know, right now I'm working in the Valley. We know that's predominantly like white and Hispanic, but yeah, I love all people, of course, but it's nothing like when you're reaching out and you're helping somebody who looks like you. And especially when you know that it goes deeper than just helping somebody who looks like you. But we know, like, looking at the big picture, this problem, you know what I'm saying, has been going on for many years. You know, and to see that many black people on the streets of LA homeless, y'all. If y'all ever come to LA, or if you live in LA, just go by there. Like, come on. You know, that to me is so eye-opening to me. You know, it's not to say, oh, we need to go in there and fix them and change them, you know, because who are we to try to go and disrupt what they got going on down there? Like, who knows? That's probably how they want to live. That's what's working for them. You know, so who are we to just jump in and be like, oh, let's fix this problem. Let's change it and make it better for them. You know, it's a reason why they live in tents. It's a reason. It's a reason why. I want to know. I think it's bigger than just mental illness. I think it's deeper than that. But thank you guys for tuning in. Thank you guys for watching. And I'll catch you guys in the next video. Bye-bye.